Alright, hello Sec 3s. So today we're going to carry on with our lecture 4. Now you have already completed the SLS quiz as well as the app puzzle. I hope that it serves as a good summary and a good revision for you on the chapter of enzymes. Now, if you can recall, the SLS video was actually talking about catalase, the enzyme catalase. Okay, now you are going to be hearing a lot more about what is this enzyme catalase. Now, catalase is an enzyme that is found in all living things, because all living things contain enzymes, and particularly they are found in animal and plant cells. Now, the cells that usually have catalase, usually we use potato in our experiments, and in the video that you watch in SLS, they actually use potato as well. So today I'm going to teach you how to answer your 10-year series question 1, a structured question asking about temperature. Now, all of you already know how and what and why an enzyme performs this way. It's all in your notes. But when you look at a structured question and you see so many blanks, you might be a little bit afraid. So don't have to worry. Miss Lee and Mr. Farid will actually teach you how to answer the questions. And then on Friday, we will ask you to practice answering a question on your own, because you need to learn to do a question independently. Okay, so if you are ready, let us continue. Alright, so this is the question that you will see in your 10-year series. So let's read the question. Potato contains the enzyme catalase. Now this might look very familiar because in your video, you actually saw that they use hydrogen peroxide as well as potato. So this should not be a difficult question for you to understand. So this potato, which is here, contains the enzyme catalase. Okay, now catalase breaks down the substrate hydrogen peroxide to produce oxygen. So over here, I would like you to annotate on the question. Okay, the enzyme is known as catalase. So let's write that down. Okay, it is known as catalase. And then your hydrogen peroxide, I will use short form, is your substrate. Produce oxygen. So what is this oxygen that is being produced from your substrate? This is your product. Okay, so oxygen is your product, and oxygen is a gas. That means you will be seeing, what are all these? You saw this in the video, right? You will see bubbles. Okay, now in chemistry, you call this effervescence. Effervescence just means a lot of bubbling. So if you see this is a test tube, okay, this hydrogen peroxide, and you put the potato here, you will see a lot of bubbling on top, because these are all the bubbles, and these bubbles will contain oxygen, which is your product. Alright, so a student put a piece of fresh potato. This potato actually contains catalase, so this is the enzyme. Okay, and the person also put the potato in a solution of hydrogen peroxide. The chemical formula for hydrogen peroxide is H2O2, and H2O2 is the substrate. So catalase will break down H2O2 to give you oxygen. And the more oxygen bubbles that you see, can you guess what that means? Does it mean that the enzyme is more or less active? Good. That means the enzyme is more active, because if the enzyme is more active, means it can combine a lot with the substrate and produce a lot of product. Okay, so let's read the question. The student counts 20 bubbles in 1 minute. That means for 1 minute, it took the enzyme, okay, it took the enzyme 1 minute to produce 20 bubbles of oxygen. Now remember, Miss Lee is going to repeat again. This oxygen is your product. So he was very happy. He recorded in this table below 20 bubbles of oxygen. Now you notice over here, I never write bubbles per minute because the unit is already in the heading. So in the body of the table, no need to write units because the unit is already on the heading of the table. Now, this is what the student did with the fresh piece of paper, with the fresh piece of potato. Now the student repeated the experiment again, and this time the student repeated the experiment using a piece of potato that was boiled. That means temperature, okay, was very, very high. Now remember in your notes, when the temperature is low, it is inactive. When the temperature is extremely high, your enzyme will become good, denatured. Okay, so you may say, but Miss Lee, she cooled the potato, so the potato is actually brought back to the normal temperature. But don't forget what happened first. She went to boil the potato before she cooled it. So the moment she boiled the potato, all the enzymes are denatured. And denaturing is a permanent process, unlike inactivity. That means once denatured, so sorry, bye-bye. The enzyme is basically useless. It cannot perform the chemical reaction anymore. So now she take this boiled potato that has been cooled down and she put it back in the solution with H2O2. So can you predict the number of bubbles the student will count? Will she even see any bubbles at all? Now before we write our answer, let us look at a short animation. Okay, now if you need to pause the video at any time, please do so. Okay, so I just turn your attention to this. Alright, over here, this animation here. Now this is hydrogen peroxide and this is your potato. So I'm going to take the potato and I'm going to put it inside hydrogen peroxide. Now you will notice that I'm going to collect oxygen gas here. And I'm going to see how long it will take to collect 10 cm³ of oxygen gas. Okay, so you can see all the bubbling, right? So this bubbling is because the enzyme catalase react with H2O2, break it down to produce oxygen gas. So it took 40 seconds. Now I'm going to repeat the same experiment at different temperatures. Can you see that at one particular temperature, there is no gas produced? That means there is 0 bubbles, and that is at 75 degrees Celsius. So I'm going to draw the graph. You will notice that the graph shows you that at 75 degrees Celsius, there is 0 oxygen being released. Why is that so? Because the enzymes have become denatured because the temperature is too high. Okay, so therefore, alright, when this is boiled and cooled, can you please write this down in your notes? You may pause the video now. Okay, welcome back. So when it's boiled and cooled, we say that the catalase enzyme, the potato is denatured. Okay, not H2O2 because H2O2 is the substrate. The substrate is not denatured, it is the enzyme because the enzyme is made out of protein and protein is very sensitive to heat. A little bit of heat above the optimum temperature, it cannot take it. The bonds will break, and if the bonds break, the shape will not be the same because the shape is put together by the bonds. Then we say that the shape of the active site is gone, is lost, is changed. So the original substrate, which is H2O2, cannot combine with the enzyme. And in order for you to form a product, you must have ES complex. So you may want to write this down. If hydrogen peroxide cannot fit, that means no enzyme substrate complex. And if no enzyme substrate complex means no product. So we say no chemical reaction. And over here, how do you know that there is a chemical reaction? When you see oxygen bubbles, right? So since we say now the enzyme has been denatured, so the shape of active site lost, therefore no reaction because cannot combine. So if there's no reaction, will you see any bubbles? The answer will be no, you won't see any bubbles because there is no chemical reaction. Therefore, we will say that the number of bubbles that the student will actually see when she uses a boiled potato will be 0 bubbles. Okay, so that will be 1 mark. You just have to write 0. Now, don't be afraid to write 0. Some of you might say, but teacher, 0 can be an answer, meh? Yes, it can be an answer. Okay, you just have to look at what the question is asking you. So let's move on to part B. Alright, so they ask you to explain your answer in A, and your answer basically is you must tell the teacher how come you choose 0 bubbles for boiled potato. Okay, now you have already gotten your answer. So the first thing you will say is, why is there 0 bubbles? Because there's no chemical reaction, right? So we will say, number 1, because the catalase is denatured. What does denatured mean? It means that the shape of the active site has been changed. Therefore, the enzyme cannot fit with the original substrate because the shape of the enzyme changed. Alright, so we say hydrogen peroxide cannot combine or cannot fit in. Can I say cannot fit with the enzyme? The answer is yes. Okay. Last but not least, because this is only 1.5 marks, so what is your last point? You must tell me, so why is it 0 bubbles? 0 bubbles because the bubble shows you that there is a reaction. So 0 bubbles means no chemical reaction, therefore no oxygen is being produced. Okay, I need you to write both answers. You must say that there is no chemical reaction, therefore no oxygen has been produced. Okay, so you will notice that some of the questions are all like that. They will ask you, how come there's no chemical reaction? Always remember, when it is a high temperature, we must always straight away write down to get 1 mark is enzyme denatured. And what is the meaning of enzyme denatured? Means the shape is changed. And we say that the shape of the active site. Why must we always mention active site? Because active site is the one that combine with the substrate, you see. So if the active site change, then the substrate will be in trouble because the substrate cannot combine with the enzyme. Therefore, no chemical reaction can take place. Okay, so this is the end of today's lecture. I know it's a very short lecture, but I hope that you are able to understand the question better. On Friday, we will actually teach you how to do question 5. Okay, now question 5 is also about temperature. Then you will try to do question 3 on your own, which is about pH. So don't worry if you don't know how to do question 3 yet. We will teach you how to do question 3, question 5 on Friday during our live lesson. Thank you very much, Sec 3s. Have a good day. Bye-bye.